When I was 19, I bought my very first sports car, a 2003 Nissan 350Z in silver with cloth seats and a stick. It was not particularly fast, but it was tactically rewarding and very fun to drive. This is not that car. Just a few months into my ownership, that car was taken from me. I parked it and came back a few hours later to find it had been pushed literally off the side of a mountain by someone in another car who was apparently drunk. The insurance company totaled the car, paid me, and I moved on. But I never forgot how much I enjoyed driving that Z. So 6 years later, I've bought another one, a 2003 silver with cloth seats and a stick. I got this from a lovely older gentleman who bought it brand new in 2003 and put less than 70,000 miles on it in 16 years. It was garage kept, never modified, and never tracked. I will not be so kind. Within a month of buying the car, Ben and I were up in Ontario for Speed Academy's annual lapping day at Toronto Motorsports Park. He took his Civic and I took the Z with our PF1s and Hankook RS4s from Lana thrown on. The goal with this car is to do some slight mechanical modification and significant driver modification. As rapid a platform as the Evo is to track, it's pretty point and shoot without asking too much of the driver except not to screw up, which is sometimes too tall of an order for me. It's also quite expensive to turn laps in. A slower, naturally aspirated platform like the Z seems like a good way to turn more laps and get more driver mod, even if those laps are slower. And I want everyone I know to get the keys and take it out for some laps themselves. For the record, my memories of the Z being a delightful driving package are not clouded by 19-year-old naivete. The car is a blast to drive, even if it's not particularly fast. Think of it like a slightly more powerful but significantly heavier Miata or BRZ. The stock driving experience is extremely solid for the price point. Steering and shift feel are some of the best I've ever felt in any car that's stickered for less than $30,000. The shift feel in particular is miles better than the Evo. The interior build quality though feels like everything was assembled with thumbtacks and spit. This Z is the enthusiast trim as designated by the cruise control on the steering wheel but lack of audio controls. It has a Nissan VLSD in the back, a much maligned unit which apparently becomes an open diff once it soaks up any amount of heat on track, though it worked fine for me at TMP. The car is stock, but that's gonna change. For those of you who have watched some of the videos on my Evo, you'll know that I have Fortunato 510s on it. They are superlative, and since I plan for the Z to see a lot of track use, they were the perfect suspension to go with here as well. These are Fortunato's new version 7 510s, a step up from the street-oriented 500s with 12K, 10K Swift springs. The 350 and 370Z come stock with divorce shocks and springs in the rear. I went with what's called a true rear instead of the divorce setup, which is just a standard coilover design. That makes the spring bucket unnecessary, so I can replace this arm in the future for something more lightweight. I genuinely love the dudes at Fortunato, and they were nice enough to even install the suspension for me because I'm a garbage boy, and also because it makes it easier for me to film. Just a disclaimer, installation is not a service that they normally offer. With the track day scheduled just 2 days after the suspension install, I took the Z in for an alignment for my buddy Vinay. In the meantime, I had one big problem I still needed to figure out. The 350Z was offered with 2 brake options: big ol' Brembo brakes on the performance, track, and Nismo trim levels, and puny itty bitty single piston calipers on all the other trims. Guess which one my Z has? I'm a strong believer that it's not the size of your calipers, but what you do with them that matters. An aggressive pad compound and high temp fluid can go a long way before you actually need bigger brakes. The problem is it's hard to find somebody that offers a decent track pad option for the non-Brembo. The beefiest boy I could find was the Hawk HP Plus, which is really more of an autocross pad if anything, not something you'd want to run at fast tracks with big braking zones. Luckily, my friend Rapp shot me a link to a part number for the Hawk DTC-60, which is the same compound that I run on the Evo for track use. I put that part number in the description of this video. MAPerformance was able to dig those pads up for me along with some Motul RBF 600 high temp fluid, and we were off to the races.
Okay, so we are here at Virginia International Raceway with NASA Mid-Atlantic, and we are going to do our second ever track day in the 350Z. This is our first big boy track in the Z, and today we are just going to be shaking down the brand new setup. We just got the suspension in 2 days ago, got it aligned yesterday, so we get to figure out how the car feels now. We get to adjust to that a little bit, and then we're just going to turn lap after lap after lap. That's the whole goal of this car, is just massive seat time. So I'm gonna drive it, I'm gonna throw some of my buddies in the car, get them to drive it, give me feedback, and it should be a good time. We're just gonna try and turn as many laps as we can. So I've never been around VIR in anything but an all-wheel drive car in the Evo. So taking a rear-wheel drive car around is a very different experience. It requires a lot more commitment. The Evo kind of is almost so good that I feel like it teaches bad habits and I'm a little bit negligent when I get to drive it. So with the Z, you have to be a little bit more strict in how you behave yourself on track, but it is a ton of fun to drive. Coby got a chance to take a spin in the car as well, and he put down a screamer. He did a 217. He says there's a 214 in it, which is faster than I went in the Evo, so the car's not slow.
The Z was not slow, and by the end of the day, I was starting to feel more and more comfortable in a rear-wheel drive car. The Fortunatos kept the car planted and predictable through the gnarly uphill S's and the undulations on the front straight, and the brake pads and fluid were consistently hauling the car down from 130 miles an hour. Everything was going great, although I still had multiple seconds to make up on Coby if I wanted to save face. The next day started out with some extremely valuable seat time. Laps in the rain. I took a session out in the wet and then went for a ride with Coby driving in a real downpour. Let me take just a second to brag on my boy. If YouTube subscribers were doled out based on driver skill, you would be watching this on Coby's channel and not mine. His driver mod is unreal, as evidenced by his multiple track records this season in grid life. Coby and I actually went to high school together, so it's really neat to see someone who is my underclassman excel so much at a hobby that we're both really into. And I went ahead and put a link to his YouTube channel in the description of this video if you guys want to see a bunch of really fast laps. Once the track had dried, Coby went out and set a 2:15.7 in the Z, just 7/10 off of my personal best in the Evo, which gave me a good benchmark to chase as I drove for the rest of the day. By the final session of the day, I was feeling much more comfortable with the platform, powering through oversteer and really starting to lean on the car. In the last session, I managed a 220.2, even with a power cut on the front straight, which was admittedly pretty frustrating. I'm not sure if this is the Z's limp mode engaging or what caused this, but it wasn't the best. All that being said, the Z absolutely excelled on its first outing to VIR and showed itself to be the perfect platform for getting buckets and buckets of seat time. I've actually taken to calling it the Seat Time Z. So this is it, gang. I bought the Z with hopes of turning laps and having fun with my friends, and thus far it has proven to be a brilliant platform for that. Coby and I both turned a bunch of laps this weekend, and although we still need to get other Ben into the driver's seat, I'm sure there'll be plenty more opportunities for that. The Fortunato suspension has been peerless, and more mods will begin to trickle in, though nothing that will affect the car's lapability. And as always, a big thanks to Chris and all the guys at NASA Mid-Atlantic for having us out to the track. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope that you're as excited about this new addition to the Gears and Gasoline garage as I am. And one more thing, before you ask, we're not getting rid of the Evo. We actually have some pretty big plans for that. Stay tuned.